Welcome to the Paycheck project. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button.
Welcome to the Explainer. So over the next 5 parts, we're going to dig deep into one of the most talked about and honestly, one of the most controversial financial philosophies out there today. It all kicks off with this really simple but kind of nagging question about the way most of us are living our lives.
Does this feel a little too familiar? That whole daily grind? You work, you earn, you spend, and then you wake up and do it all over again? You know, you feel like you're running and running hard, but are you actually getting anywhere new? Well, there's this growing movement that's challenging this entire cycle by asking, is this really all there is?
You know, for generations, the deal was pretty straightforward. You go to school, you land a good, stable job, and you work for what, 40+ years? And if you do everything right, you get to enjoy whatever time is left. That was the blueprint for a good life.
But what if that blueprint is just outdated? What if you could totally flip the script on your relationship with work and money? To buy back the single most valuable thing you have, your time. Well, that is the core promise of a philosophy called F.I.R.E.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to define what FIRE even is. Then we'll get into the nuts and bolts, its 3 main pillars. We'll unpack the simple but powerful math behind it, get to the philosophical heart of the movement, and finally, see how it all adds up to a totally new way of looking at the world. Let's jump in.
So what is F.I.R.E? I mean, beyond just the acronym, it's really a fundamental challenge to the whole idea of what a career is supposed to look like.
F.I.R.E. stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. And the idea is actually pretty simple. You save and invest aggressively until the money your assets make from things like stocks or real estate is enough to cover all your living expenses. Forever. And here's the most important part. The goal isn't just to stop working. The goal is to make paid work optional.
And this right here is the biggest myth we've got to bust. The retire early part gets all the attention, but for most people in this movement, the real prize is financial independence. It's about getting total autonomy over your time. Retiring early is just one thing you could do. You could also start that business you've been dreaming of, or travel, or work on a cause you believe in. The point is, the choice is finally truly yours. So, how in the world does anyone actually pull this off? Well, it's not magic, that's for sure. It comes down to a really straightforward framework that's built on 3 really powerful, interconnected ideas, or pillars.
Just think of it like a 3-legged stool. You need all 3 legs for it to work. First, saving a frankly unbelievable amount of your money. Second, spending with extreme intention to make that savings possible. And third, investing that money strategically so it starts working for you. Let's start with that first pillar because it's the one that just shatters all the conventional rules.
For decades, this is the number we've all had drilled into our heads, right? Financial planners, our parents, pretty much every article online says to save about 10, maybe 15% for retirement. And look, that's fine if you're cool with working for 40 years. But the F.I.R.E. movement looks at that number and thinks, we can do better.
And this is the radical part. People chasing F.I.R.E. aim to save over half, sometimes up to 75% of their after-tax income. I know, it sounds absolutely bonkers. Because it is. But this one, single, aggressive goal is the master key that unlocks a ridiculously shorter timeline to freedom.
But why that number? How does saving so much money change the game so dramatically? Well, it all boils down to some surprisingly simple math that completely reframes the entire relationship between how much you save and how long you have to work.
This table basically lays out the entire logic of the F.I.R.E. movement. Just look at that top row. If you save 10% of your income, you have to work for 9 years just to save up for 1 single year of living expenses. 9 years for 1 year of freedom. Now jump down to the middle. At a 50% savings rate, every year you work buys you 1 full year of freedom. And at 75%, you're banking a year of freedom every 4 months. The speed up isn't just linear, it's exponential.
Of course, saving half your income is pretty much impossible, unless those other 2 pillars are rock solid. Intentional frugality is the how. It's not about being miserable or depriving yourself. It's about being ruthless and aligning your spending with what actually makes you happy. You start asking, is this thing worth more to me than my own freedom? That's how you free up the cash. And then, strategic investing is what you do with it. You don't just let it sit there. You put it to work in simple, low-cost investments like broad market index funds. This lets the magic of compound interest become your silent partner, building your wealth while you sleep.
Okay, let's be honest. This level of discipline is incredibly difficult. Saving half your income means making real sacrifices. So what's the motivation? What keeps people going when it gets hard? To get that, we have to move past the spreadsheets and get to the real philosophical core of FIRE.
This one sentence from the book Your Money or Your Life is basically the psychological engine for this entire movement. Let it sink in. Money is something you trade your life energy for. It just reframes everything. Suddenly, money isn't just paper or numbers on a screen. It's a direct representation of your most precious, non-renewable resource, your life, your time.
So let's make this real. Think about something you bought recently for $100. A nice dinner out, a new pair of shoes, whatever. We see the price tag and we think $100. But what if we priced it in units of our own life? Let's just use a simple number. Say, after taxes and everything, you make about $20 an hour. The math here is really easy, but the conclusion is a total game changer.
That $100 thing didn't cost $100. It cost you 5 hours of your life. 5 hours that you had to trade away at work that you will never, ever get back. When you start thinking about costs that way, your entire perspective on spending just gets turned on its head.
All of a sudden, every financial choice becomes a life choice. Is that new phone worth a full week of your life energy? Is that daily coffee worth 15 minutes of your freedom? See, it's not about being cheap. It's about being incredibly intentional. You're not just saving money anymore. You are actively, consciously buying back your own freedom, hour by hour.
So when you put it all together, the practical math and this really powerful psychological shift, what you end up with is way more than just a savings plan. You arrive at a completely new worldview, one that redefines the very meaning of the word wealth.
This is the ultimate paradigm shift right here. The conventional view says wealth is all external. It's measured by what you have, the big house, the fancy car, the job title. But the F.I.R.E. worldview says that true wealth is internal. It's measured by what you control. It's having free time, it's having options, and it's having the autonomy to design your own life.
And really, if there's one thing to take away from all this today, it's this. The spreadsheets, the investment accounts, those are just the tools. The real work, the real change is behavioral and psychological. It's a shift in your mindset first and a financial plan second. Because without that deep internal shift, sticking to the numbers on the page is next to impossible.
The philosophy itself is so simple, and it's really compelling. Trade a few years of intense focus and hard work for an entire lifetime of freedom. But this raises the biggest and most important question of all. Is this actually possible for most people, or is this just a dream that's reserved for a handful of high-earning, privileged few? Well, we're going to tackle that critical question head-on in Part 2.